Hello, friends, and welcome to the rest of the sermon. I love this opportunity to dive deep into the Gospel of Matthew, follow up from this past Sunday's sermon. We get to do that once again this week, and today with me is the big guy himself, Santa Claus.
That's right.
Mark Phillips.
Morning.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I mean, I just love you to death.
Thank you.
I want you to know that. Of all the children's pastors I've worked with, of all the many, you easily are in the top 50.
Well, I appreciate that.
Top 50, no doubt about it.
No doubt. It's got to be good. Got to be good.
What's happening in your world, brother?
Well, just staying busy like always, it seems like. Never slows down, does it?
It really doesn't. Time goes faster and faster. It's amazing how that happens.
But it's good. Things are good. I've been enjoying things here with the kids at church recently.
And you almost won a soccer game last
Almost
night.
won a soccer game.
Tell the people, somebody don't know that this is not just Pastor Mark, this is Coach Phillips right
That's
here.
right. My son and Griffin and I actually coached the high school, St. Paul Lutheran High School soccer team. So now Griffin knows more about it than I do. I'm just kind of the older adult to be there to keep things going. But we had a game last
Griffin
night.
under control.
Keep Griffin under control, right. We had a game last night, lost 4-3. It was a good game, though. It was close right up to the end, so can't be disappointed.
I love how you judge your games by how close the loss was sometimes.
That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do.
We lost, but we barely lost.
We barely lost, yeah.
Hey, but you've won more games for that school and team than they have in a long
time.
That's
right.
good, man. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you're here with me this morning. I got to tell you, first of all, I should tell our audience that next week we won't have a rest of the sermon. Be off a week because I'm not going to be here this Sunday. You're going to be preaching for me Sunday.
I will be.
Appreciate that. I don't even know what you got planned. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be good.
It's going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be the best ever.
Great.
The best ever. So you're going to preach for me while I'm out in Texas at one of my previous churches' 150th anniversary.
That's
so,
neat.
So next Sunday we won't have rest of the sermon. So we'll be back in 2 weeks as we jump into that. But I tell you what, I am very excited for this weekend. I am filled with anticipation for this weekend. Yes, I'm excited that you get to preach.
Yeah, that's what I am.
I'm excited for this trip back to Texas. Very, very excited. It's going to be a quick, get in, get out kind of trip thing. A very, very busy weekend for me. But you know what I'm very excited about the most?
Food.
How do you know me so well?
I saw the twinkle in your eye.
I'm going to try to go by Del Norte Tacos. Actually, there's I'm going to be in a part of Texas that there's like 2 or 3 places that I'd love to stop at. I don't know if I'll get it. I want to go by Heart 8 Barbecue, which again, if you're in Texas, Heart 8 Barbecue is unbelievable. I want to go by a place called Let's Eat in the little town of Bluffdale, Texas, where I'm going to. There's one restaurant. There maybe 2 now, but one restaurant, a hole-in-the-wall place. A guy who was a classically trained chef. The ugliest restaurant you ever walk in your life will knock your socks off. People line up Friday and Saturday nights to get dinner there. It's crazy. I doubt I'll get to eat there, but it's good food. But I want to go by Del Norte Tacos. This place they took an old service station and turned it into this restaurant. So where you eat is where they used to jack the cars up for the oil changes and that kind of stuff. It's crazy. But it is a fusion of Texas barbecue and Mexican food. And they do a brisket taco there. I'm just going to tell you, Penny, who's not going with me, she's already kind of mad that I told her that I'm going to go, and she's not going to be there with me. I don't know what they do to these things.
Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible. And so, I got to see all friends. Yeah, I got to see where we raised our kids. Whoop-de-doo. I got to eat at Del Norte tacos, very excited. With eager anticipation. No, I'm really happy to be going back. I pastored at church from 2008 to 2012. And, I said we moved there when Peyton, our oldest, was 6 months. Parker, our youngest, was born while we were there. And, of course, a lot of his medical things when he was born there. And just other things, living in that parsonage right next door to the church, old school kind of thing. Some challenging times there, too, for sure. But a blessed time, and so to be able to walk down memory lane for me this coming weekend.
Be nice.
Yeah,
that'd be really nice.
Well, as excited as I am about the tacos, let's talk about Scripture.
Let's talk about Matthew.
I guess we have to talk about Matthew
Yeah.
today. I mean, that's kind of why we're here. Let's do that. Let me do the really quick review, and then I'll get your thoughts on this past Sunday sermon. Then we'll dive deep. But we were in Matthew chapter 11, verses 25 through 30. So it was the end of that chapter. Familiar verses. Mainly, it was him talking about the invitation. We talked about how this passage is invitation. Christ says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden. I will give you rest." And I talked about how this passage was an invitation into experiencing Christ. About how we get rid of our works. How we get away from that type of living, of what makes us weary, that control and that works. And we come to Jesus. We take his yoke upon you. We learn from him. Even on that is an invitation to understand what that means. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But what we find is exactly what Christ promises. We get rest for our souls, not rest for our bodies, rest for our souls. For my yoke is easy, Christ says, and my burden is light. Let me just ask you, there's several things that I want to jump into today because, as I mentioned on the Sunday sermon, this passage connects to so many other places in Scripture. But just give me what was your takeaway from Sunday's message?
Well, for me, I think that when we sit there and we sit and talk about God's peace, that's different than anything else that we can ever even imagine. I don't even know what I was reading, but last night I was reading something, and it said, there's a rest and then there's a peaceful rest. And I thought it goes right back to your sermon. I thought those are two different things. You can be tired, and we can all be tired, but when there's that tiredness of the stress and the life and everything involved, that's when you need that peaceful rest more. Because you can sleep a good 7-8 hours, but that peace is not there.
Right.
And so I think just letting us know that we can trust God, we can trust his providence for our life, not always understand everything, but we can trust that and get that peace from him is just amazing.
No doubt about it, because you're exactly right. There's a time we need a nap, and there's a time we need vacation, and there's times we have to give our body a rest. There's times we have to give our minds a rest, but there's times our soul needs a rest,
Right.
And that only happens in Christ. I know the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I've enjoyed going on a pastor's retreat here locally down to Eagle Sky. That's happened in the fall. I don't know when it's going to happen this year, but it's like 3 days, and that's always been a really nice experience for me because it's rest of both ways, right? It's we get down there and kind of just first of all, you just have some time to do nothing.
Right.
It's really nice, and,
Right.
And I always try to not take work with me and anything else like that. But it's it's in a place where it's just conducive to prayer and to worship and a rest for our soul because it's a focus on Christ. And so that's what this passage is reminding us. It reminds us we need to come to Christ for the very first time in our salvation. That's rest, and we're going to jump into that. But we have to keep coming for that rest for our souls. Let's kind of jump in. Obviously, for those who are watching, you can see I've got different Bibles in front of me and papers in front of me. For those of you not watching, you got to trust me. That's true. I'm not lying, am I?
You're not lying.
I'm not lying. I mean, anyway, I've got a lot of stuff in front of me because, like I said, for 6 verses, there are a lot of scriptural connections. There's some really clear connections. There's some places where it's pretty obvious what Christ is doing, what he's connecting to. There are some things that it's kind of a little bit looser connection the subject matter that comes up leads you down some paths in other places. It's a really cool passage. Like I said, it's kind of what did I call it Sunday, a scriptural hub. It kind of connects this to that over there. In fact, let me show you an example. The beginning of this passage in Matthew 11, where Christ begins his prayer, "I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children." Now, I said on Sunday, that's Christ's simple way of saying thank you for those who aren't too smart for their own good.
Right.
And that is, there's no doubt, that is what he's saying. Thank you for those who thought they could figure out their way of salvation. They put together this theology of works. Those are too smart for their good. And I run into this all the time. People, listen, I believing in this thing, Jesus, oh, come on, right? Man, I'm smarter than that. They don't say that, although I've run into people who say that exact thing. But I think a lot of people in their heart go, it's just too simple for me.
Right. Too simple.
and they focus on human wisdom and they reject it. And so Christ is saying, thank you for those who didn't let their own intelligence. That's not really, it's not as good as they think that it is. But thank you for not letting those people, for those that got in their own way. Thank you for those who had the simple faith. That's what he's praying. But actually, the connection point is the book of Daniel. So back in Daniel chapter 2, verse 21 and 23, this is where Daniel is responding to God because God allowed him to interpret a dream. This happened obviously several times in Daniel. Mm-hmm. Daniel's a prophet. And so he's giving God thanks and prayer. And it says this in verse 21 and 23 says, Daniel prays and says, God gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. To you, O God of my ancestors, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and power and have now revealed to me what we have asked of you. Okay? So this is actually the first major interpretation of Daniel that he deals with, and kind of what brings Daniel onto the scene as being so famous. Mm-hmm. But forgive me, that's the second time I've coughed in the mic. I'm sorry. I need more of my coffee.
Yeah,
get me going today here. Hold on. But what Daniel is saying, his prayer is, thank you for giving me wisdom. And in fact, he says, God gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. So Christ is praying the opposite. Christ is inverting the prayer of Daniel, where Daniel is saying, thank you for giving me this interpretation, allowing me to understand these things, because Daniel's not bragging on himself. He's saying he's a person of wisdom and intelligence. He's recognized it comes from God, right? Mm-hmm. He says, basically, Daniel's prayer is you would not give this interpretation, this prophecy, this gift of prophecy to somebody who is not wise or has no understanding. He says, you give wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. It's almost like the smart get smarter. Not quite what he's saying there, but, he is talking about, he's able to do this because he has been given wisdom, because he is knowledgeable, because he has smarts, mm-hmm. a little bit. He has intelligence. And he praises God for that. And here comes Christ, and he inverts it. And so the question is Jesus arguing against what Daniel prayed? Is he, Daniel, you are wrong? No, I don't think that's what he's doing here. He is being very clever. And he is not saying Daniel was wrong in his prayer, but he's inverting the prayer and saying, God, thank you that you didn't, that you hid the things from the wise and revealed them to little children. I mean, again, listen to what Jesus says. I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you've hidden these things from the wise and understanding. Both of those phrases Daniel used. God gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the understanding. I thank you, Father, that you've hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children. I'm putting you on the spot, which you know that you love that when I do this, but why would Jesus invert the prayer of Daniel? What do you think he's after here?
I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that since this is in Daniel's time, I'm not sure there was as much learned people probably as there was during Jesus' time.
Right.
And it got to the place that now all these people had knowledge, but their belief was not there. In Daniel's time, there's probably more belief, even though they might not have had all the knowledge. And
right.
It looks different probably in the time that Jesus was there.
Yeah, it's not saying Daniel's a bad guy because he had knowledge and learning and used all that. What Jesus is saying, when it comes to, now we're obviously dealing with salvation at this point. And so many people had thought they had figured out the way to be saved, which in their system was works, right? Mm-hmm. If you keep the law, if you do all these things.
Right.
And so his point here was, you're not going to ever be smart enough to solve your way to God, right? He's pointing on those that have to have that simple childlike faith. And you can't rely on your own wisdom and your own understanding. You're not going to be smart enough for that. So he's not saying it's wrong to be wise or intelligent. He has taken that prayer of Daniel, and for those who who may be trying to claim, oh, look, I'm almost like a Daniel. I'm so wise and intelligent. God's probably going to reveal to me what I need to know, because he revealed it to Daniel. Well, in this case, Christ is saying, not how it works. You have to come by a simple faith, a childlike faith. Then revelation happens. Then wisdom comes, and you get understanding. But you have to come like a child. And so Jesus is doing a little play on Daniel right here. And again, that's not an obvious connection point, but it's a really cool one when you see what he's doing there. I want to go on to kind of the next phrase. Again, I'm at risk to making this a really long episode today, and I'm watching my watch because I've got a meeting.
Yes, you do.
In about half an hour or so, and I got to drive to it. So we're going to try to keep moving. In the next phrase, in verse 27, actually, Christ says he's continuing his prayer, and he says, "All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him." Okay, so there are at least three major issues going on here. I mean, we didn't even get to talk hardly about this verse Sunday, but I'd like to get into a little bit more here. First of all, Christ says, all things have been handed over to me by my Father. That obviously deals with the subject of authority, right? I mean, he has been given the keys to the kingdom. He has the right to judge. And so another statement, which Christ deals with this in other places too, and we've talked about it. We will come back to the issue of authority. But he makes a clear statement. All things have been handed over to Christ, and then he makes a statement, which is the natural succession of his thought here. No one knows the Son except the Father. No one knows the Father except the Son. So all these people who want to get to God, who want to know, who going, I think there's a creator behind all this. Looking up the sky and goes, there's probably a God out there. How do I know this God? And here Jesus says, all things have been handed over to me. No one knows the Father. No one knows, God, but the Son. No one knows the Son but the Father. The only way to know the Father is through the Son. And so he makes this interesting statement. Now, we'll jump into some Greek for a moment. I know your favorite thing. To say, in here to say, no one knows the Son except the Father, no one knows the Father except the Son, it uses the word in Greek, epigenosko. Now, the word gnosko in Greek is a common word. It's used a lot. It means to know. But it means more than just to know. It means to know on a close level based on experience, an intimate, kind of level based on experience. Like, for example, I know a lot of people, but I don't know. I could say I gnosko you. We have experienced life together. Like, we work together on a daily basis. We're close friends. I know about you and your life. I meet somebody. I'll be in a meeting today with people I know. I know their name. I see them in the community. I don't know them, right?
Right.
And so gnosko is already a close word of knowing. It's already saying, I know you well. To put on the beginning of the epi, the prefix epi, is intensifying that word. So it's like, I know you really, really, really well. Like, I know you well, but I know my children and my wife or other family members very, very, very well, right? I mean, there is that, connection point. That's kind of that level. Like, who do you know best in this world? And obviously, I think a lot of times that the easiest connection point is a husband and a wife, right? The connection of husband and wife, there's one flesh. You share life together. That there's things that Penny knows of me that nobody else knows, and I know of her, and just experience of life. I could describe her better than anybody else could, and she could describe me better than anybody else could. That intense knowing, and this is the word Christ uses here. It says, he's just intensifying. You want to know the Father. First of all, the only one who knows him, epigenosko, really, 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 really knows him is me. And the only one who really, really, really knows me is him. To have a relationship with God, you have to have a relationship with me.
Right.
And so, he is saying, as clear as possible, you want to be with the Lord, you want to have a relationship with him, you've got to know me. You have to be in a relationship with me. You have to come to me and learn from me and all the stuff he's talking about here. You have to come to really, 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 really know me. And to really, really know me means to really, really know God. So, it's such an important phrase here to know this. Now, one other thing, and this could open a can of worms. I'm not going to let it, but Christ says at the end of this prayer, he's saying, all authority's been handed over me. No one knows the Father except the Son. The Son knows the Father. And to anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Do you see the problem there, Mark, maybe?
Yes, I do see
What's maybe the potential problem with this passage?
Because it looks like and sounds like that he's only going to reveal it to certain people and not to everybody.
Ding, ding, ding. Way to go, man. You answered correctly. So for those who would buy into hyper-Calvinism, limited atonement issues, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. But the idea that that God has only elected some to be saved, I see even there I start to walk down a line I have to be very careful with. That here that salvation is the issue of predestination, and God, He knows who He's going to save, and only those get saved, and so there's really nothing you can do about it. If you're meant to be, if you're predestined to be saved, you're going to get saved, and all kind of stuff. And they'll look to a passage like this as well. Christ right here, Christ says, to those whom Jesus chooses to reveal Him. It's that old debate of Calvinism versus Arminianism. It's the free will choice versus the preordained. It's going to happen. And some people really look at this verse and go, well, that says it right there. It is. Now, let's be clear. God does know who is going to be saved, right? God has a foreknowledge.
Right.
God, absolutely, and there's no doubt that God has knowledge who's going to be saved. We can call that group the elect. There's no problem. There's no scriptural problem saying the elect are those who will be saved, and God has a foreknowledge of those who will choose Him. The issue comes in, is there that choice to choose Him and the choice to deny Him? Now, God may know the choice ahead of time, but you still have that free will choice, or is God determined it and you're going to do it no matter what? And it's kind of like you can chase your tail a little bit in this situation. Trust me, I've been one to walk down through it. And my answer to the Arminianism versus Calvinism debate is Molinism. I love Molinism. If you don't know what Molinism is, man, just buy me lunch one day and I'll talk for about 3 hours. Anyway, they're all isms. They're all things of man, right? Christ undoubtedly does reveal the Father. God knows who's going to do it. But we also forget, not only in this passage, but especially in the verses preceding it, that Christ also refers to those who are going to end up rejecting Him. And there is definitely free will language used in the other verses for, He giving an invitation also here. I mean, the other things who will criticize Him. Again, what did I just say? I could open a can of worms here, and I'm trying to be really careful what path I walk down. If you take just this one verse, yes, it could really seem to support and walk down a path of, well, God has already picked who's going to save, and that's what it's going to be, and so why do we worry about evangelism? And that's, I don't believe that. That's not a biblical theology. That's not looking at the whole picture, because, again, in other verses, there does seem to be also the references to the choice of the people, what they get to do. It's this wonderful, confusing balance between God's omniscience, God's knowledge, His foreknowledge, and our ability to choose to be a part of God's will. It's just this wonderful, beautiful, messy picture a little bit. It's not messy to God at all. It's messy on our end of the pit, of the frame. But it's a hard thing to deal with, right? A little bit, certainly in a 30-minute podcast episode.
Right.
I guess the takeaway is you remember that, again, only to know the Father is though who knows the Son. And if that has been revealed to you, God knew that was going to happen in your life. Yes, I do believe you had the choice to respond to that. But it has to come through the Son. Mm-hmm. Can you tell I'm just itching to go down this road? Like, I'd love to, can I tell my meeting I'm not showing up today and just stay here for 4 hours and jump into this particular debate? I don't think we can, but there is at least one other bit I want us to talk about. There's about 5 other things we could talk about, but at least one more I certainly want to get into. So this phrase, come to me, all you who are labor and heavy laden, I will give you rest. Let's talk about the issue of rest and this whole phrase of what Jesus is saying here. First of all, the topic of rest is a very, very prominent Old Testament topic. It's talked about in Jeremiah 6. You see it in the Psalms. You can even see, go back into Genesis, Exodus, and you talk about the Holy Land and rest. Obviously rest is personified in being in the land at sometimes. Like, sometimes when the people are talking about being at rest, it's in reference to, going back into the Holy Land. Psalm 95 talks about coming out of Egypt and coming into God's rest, and they're referring to the land, although it's bigger than that. Like it means sometimes they look at the Holy Land, but they know that rest is being personified. They are in God's promise. They're receiving the ultimate benefit of blessing of God's promise. That's what rest is. And of course, ultimately means salvation. There's no doubt about it. If you go back and really work on that word, you understand it's talking about salvation primarily, to enter into a restful relationship with God, made right with Him, to enter into God's rest. But it's seen in a lot of ways, right? And so I'm taking another complex subject here and trying to handle it in a short period of time, but I want people to kind of get the idea between the connection here between wisdom and rest, because Christ is referring to both things here. Some had this, but this idea of wisdom, this idea of, learn from me, kind of thing like this. In the Old Testament, wisdom, the issue of wisdom, if you go look in Proverbs, if you go look in other places, wisdom is often likened to being a person. One commentator called it almost like a girlfriend of God. And I'm not saying God actually has a girlfriend. But what happens a lot in Old Testament, what they do is it's called, there's a certain figure of speech, it's called a hypostasis, or personification, where they take an element of God and they try to put a human nature on it, right? God's ear, God's hand, like that. And wisdom is often referred to, and this is obviously done in the book of Proverbs. Wisdom itself is put in the form of a woman a lot of times. It's lady, listen to her, this idea. And it's referred to a lot, this idea of wisdom that's out there. And so it's personified a lot, this idea of you need wisdom. In fact, we've already talked about wisdom itself a little bit. And so there's so many scriptures that kind of, refer to about listen to her voice, listen to wisdom, respond to it. And there's even connection between wisdom will give you rest. And that's referenced in a few places. In fact, one of the most interesting references, and I think loose connections I mentioned this Sunday, was out of the book of Yeshua ben Sirah, which everybody knows that book, right? Everybody knows that book. You probably never heard that at all. It's Yeshua ben Sirah, or also known as Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus is its other name, its Latin name. It is a book from the Apocrypha. Now, I realize not everybody knows what the Apocrypha is. So, Mark, could you go ahead and just give me about 10 minutes on the history and background of the Apocrypha?
I will not. That's my wisdom.
I'm not even going there.
Not even going.
The really fast version of the Apocrypha. In fact, I have one of my Bibles open that actually has the Apocrypha in it. The Apocrypha is a collection of books, most of them, not all of them, most of them written during the intertestament period between Malachi and Matthew. And now, for the most part, most will not consider Scripture. Catholic Church, they kind of accept it as Scripture, or additions to Scripture. As a loose view. Most Protestants will not see this as scriptural. Doesn't mean it's not useful. In fact, these books, for example, the books on the Maccabees that are here talk about the Jewish revolt and some important moments in history that happened in that 300-year gap between the Testaments. And so there are some value in these books. I would agree with not calling them scriptural, but they are valuable. And that's why actually some Bibles, including this is one of I have lots and lots and lots of Bibles. I have this one specifically because it includes the Apocrypha in it, these handful of books. And the book of Sirach, or Yeshua ben Sirah, is one of the apocryphal books. It is. It was written 140-ish years before Jesus was born. It's called Yeshua ben Sirach because that's the name of the guy who wrote it. In fact, I believe I'm correct. It's the only book in the Apocrypha that carries the name of the person who wrote it. So it's sometimes shortened to Sirach. The name is Jesus, son of Sirah, or Sirach is the actual English translation of it. And so some people have likened this to the book of Proverbs. It's similar to the book of Proverbs, kind of, but like they're longer Proverbs. It's a book of poetry. It's a book of wisdom, and it's kind of this nature of Proverbs just extended. Again, it's interesting for those who want to look at it. The very last chapter of the book of Sirach, Yeshua ben Sirah, chapter 51, there's a few verses that you might hear some familiar language. It says this: "Draw near to me," wisdom says, "you who are untaught, and lodge in my school. Why do you say you are lacking in these things, and why are your souls very thirsty? I opened my mouth and said, get these things for yourself without money. Put your neck under the yoke, and let your souls receive instruction. It is to be found close by. See with your eyes that I have labored little and found myself much rest." So you're obviously seeing things, similarities. Draw near to me, come close to me, learn from me, the yoke, labor little, found much rest. There's obviously some language connections between here and what Jesus is saying. Now, I'm not trying to get people worked up about Jesus quoting a book that's not a scripture. It's probably a writing that would have been known in Jesus' day, and there's nothing wrong with the content of it. We're not calling it scripture. But there's other non-scriptural things that are of some value, and it's just a passage that talks about wisdom. When you take wisdom upon you, it's actually personifying it right here a little bit, that you get rest for your soul. You realize, so what is Jesus doing? Okay, in this passage, coming back to this, a long way around to this, and then we've got to wrap up, or my next meeting is going to start calling me here in a little bit. Jesus is kind of saying, I am that wisdom. This is the whole point I've been walking towards for the past 10 minutes. Jesus in this passage, and so much of the language is when the yoke and learn from me, come to me, labor and rest. There's so many connections here, even back to Daniel and other things. He is trying to say all that wisdom that people have wanted in Old Testament they've been talked about, and think, oh, I've got this. I am that wisdom. They try to personify it and make it look like this, whatever. I am that wisdom. Take me upon you. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me. I am God's wisdom. He's given me everything. He's given me everything. All this wisdom you've heard about, you've read about in the poetry, verses that rest, of the promised land and all God's favor. I'm it. Look at me. I am this. I am that wisdom that was prophesied. I am that rest that is to come. Take me upon you. That's what's going on here. That's why this is a passage. Remember, I've told this before. The book of Matthew is written for a Jewish audience. There's no doubt about it. It's written for a very Hebraic perspective. The Jewish audiences would have grasped these truths very readily. They would have understood the issue of, what Jesus was doing with the prayer of Daniel. They would have understood very well the issue of rest and wisdom that's being kind of referenced here. And even out of a writing like Sirach and these other things. And again, there's a connection, there's a clear connection to Jeremiah. There's a clear connection to the Psalms. They would have got that Christ is referring back to these things, but ultimately he's going, man, I am it. All that's been promised, all this wisdom you've been seeking, all this how you hope to know the Father, I'm right here before you. To know it is to know me. Take me upon you. You'll know the Father. You'll have rest for your souls. You will learn that that mantle I put upon you, that yoke I place upon you, that instruction I put upon you is gentle. It's good. It's worthy of me, and it's needed for your life. Come, receive me. Man, what a great passage.
Right.
What a great passage. We got to wrap it up, Mark. But what's your kind of final thoughts on this? What have you taken away from today?
I think, well, a lot, because some of that I didn't know, so
There
that was
you go.
good. Now you've got me interested in wanting to read some of that. But I think for me, the thing is that it's so easy. It's so simple, almost so simple. That's the reason people will reject it. Because
Right.
like you said, they just don't want to accept that it's that easy.
Right.
And when we do take that yoke of Jesus upon us and we take that, we learn what he does want us to do, but we learn how to rest in his promise and how to rest in his love.
Right.
And I think that's just an amazing thing.
Yeah. Just, again, going back to that invitation, Christ is, saying, I'm opening that door for you to come experience what life is like under me, not under the world, not under these false promises, not under your own wisdom and instruction, but under me. Learn what wisdom under me really looks like. I mean, you'll find a rest that is not connected with anything else in this life.
Right.
It's an invitation. Powerful passage, and I promise you, there's 3 or 4 other paths we could have gone down today, and many other passages we could have gotten into. Those connections are great. It's a passage I just love. And we're going to kind of continue this thought in two weeks when I'm back, because Sunday after next we'll be into chapter 12 and talking about the Sabbath, Lord of the Sabbath, and that's an issue of rest too. That's a topic we're going to get into, and we'll follow up on that in the next time we come together. So praying for you this Sunday.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
I know
that.
you're going to do a great job. Looking forward to what God's going to speak through you this coming week. Thanks for joining us. I hope this has been a blessing to you. Hope we haven't put you to sleep, but you've learned something else, that you've learned about God's wisdom today, and you are accepting Christ's invitation to learn from him. Thanks as always for joining me for the rest of the sermon.